If you have kidney disease or even early kidney weakness, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say, because there is a treatment many people are told to take without question. A treatment that sounds simple, cheap, harmless, almost too ordinary to be dangerous. Baking soda, or what doctors often call sodium bicarbonate. And for years, thousands of kidney patients have been told the same thing. Your kidneys are struggling with acid buildup, so take this. It will help. And on the surface, that sounds reasonable. But what if I told you that for many people, the thing they were told would help them may also be making them feel worse? What if I told you that hidden inside this standard solution is the exact thing many kidney patients are warned to limit? And what if I told you there may be a better way to support this problem? One that many people never hear about until their body has already paid the price. I want to start with someone named David. David was 58 years old, not reckless, not careless, not the type to ignore doctors. He was the kind of man who followed instructions exactly. If his doctor said take something, he took it. If they said cut salt, he cut salt. If they said drink more water, he did his best. If they said watch his labs, he watched them. He was trying, really trying. But even though he was doing what he was told, he kept feeling like his body was slowly getting heavier, weaker, and harder to live in. His feet felt puffy, his stomach felt tight, his blood pressure was still a fight. And the strange thing was this: the more he tried to fix things, the less comfortable he felt. Then one day, after blood work showed signs of acid imbalance, he was told to take sodium bicarbonate, baking soda. The standard answer, the classic answer. The answer many kidney patients are given when the body starts slipping into metabolic acidosis. So David obeyed, he started taking it, and for a while he believed he was helping himself, because that is what patients do. They trust, they hope, they want relief. But then something started bothering him, not just physically, mentally. He kept thinking, why does something meant to protect my kidneys contain sodium, when I've been warned again and again that too much sodium can raise blood pressure, worsen swelling, and put more strain on my body? That question haunted him, and honestly, it should haunt more people. Because sodium bicarbonate does help buffer acid, but it also adds sodium. Kidney groups note that in CKD, low bicarbonate can signal metabolic acidosis, and treatment often aims to raise serum bicarbonate. But sodium-based alkali can be a problem for people sensitive to sodium load. That is the paradox nobody explains clearly enough. The solution may help one fire, while quietly feeding another. And if you are someone who already deals with swelling, rising blood pressure, bloating, or that awful heavy feeling in your body, then you need to understand this issue much more deeply than most people ever do. Because this is not just about baking soda. This is about the hidden acid problem living inside kidney disease, a problem that can quietly steal strength from your muscles, a problem that can weaken your bones, a problem that can increase the stress load inside your body while giving you very few dramatic warning signs in the beginning. And before I take you deeper into this, I want you to do something simple. Comment your age, your GFR, and where you are watching from. Because when people with kidney problems speak up, something powerful happens. The person reading your comment who feels scared and alone suddenly realizes they are not the only one. The person who has been ignoring their labs may finally wake up. And the person who thought their symptoms were just getting older may realize there is a reason behind what they've been feeling. Now let's talk about the real enemy here. Not the pill, not the powder. The real enemy, metabolic acidosis. Most people think the kidneys have one main job: filter waste. That is true. But it is only part of the story. Your kidneys are also part of a delicate internal control system that helps keep your blood in a very narrow acid-base range. In healthy people, blood pH normally stays around 7.35 to 7.45. When kidney function drops, the body can struggle to remove enough acid and keep enough bicarbonate in the blood. That sounds technical, so let me make it simple. Your body is always trying to stay balanced, not too acidic, not too alkaline, just right. And your kidneys are one of the major organs helping maintain that balance every single hour of every single day. But when the kidneys are damaged, tired, inflamed, scarred, or simply losing function over time, they stop doing this job as well as they should. They stop keeping enough bicarbonate. They stop clearing acid as effectively. And slowly, quietly, one acid starts building up. Not enough to create a dramatic movie scene, not enough to make you collapse overnight, but enough to begin changing the chemistry of your body in ways that wear you down from the inside. That is what makes this so dangerous. It is not loud. It is not obvious. It is silent. And silent problems are often the ones people discover too late. In CKD, metabolic acidosis happens because diseased kidneys become less able to reclaim bicarbonate and excrete acid effectively, including through ammonium-related mechanisms. It becomes more common as kidney disease gets worse. Now here is where the story gets darker. When acid starts building up in the body, your body does not just sit there and accept it. It fights back. It improvises. It makes emergency adjustments. And those emergency adjustments can come at a terrible cost. The first place the body may start taking from is your muscle. That is one reason some kidney patients feel like they are shrinking, weakening, losing power in their legs, feeling tired even when they are not doing much, because chronic metabolic acidosis has been linked with muscle breakdown and muscle catabolism in CKD. Think about that for a second. You may believe your weakness is just age. You may believe you're slower walking, your difficulty getting up, your loss of strength is just something that happens after 50 or happens after 60. But sometimes it is not just age. Sometimes your body is paying a chemical price. Then there are the bones. When the acid burden stays high, the body can lean on buffering systems that affect bone mineral balance. Over time, metabolic acidosis in CKD is associated with bone demineralization and poorer bone health. So now look at what is happening. You are not just dealing with one hidden problem. You are dealing with a problem that can touch strength, mobility, stability, and long-term independence. And then comes the hormonal and metabolic stress. This part matters because many people with kidney disease already feel like their body is becoming harder and harder to manage. Blood sugar feels less stable. Fatigue feels deeper. Recovery feels slower. And that is not always your imagination. Chronic metabolic acidosis has been associated with broader metabolic disruption, including effects on protein balance and insulin-related pathways. Now let me show you the really frightening part. This problem is not rare. It is not some tiny exception that affects 1 out of 1,000 people. As CKD gets worse, metabolic acidosis becomes much more common. In the CRIC cohort, it was seen in about 37% of stage 4 CKD patients, and expert reviews also note prevalence rising sharply as eGFR falls. So if you have moderate or advanced kidney disease, this is not some distant theory. This is something that could already be shaping how you feel, how fast you weaken, how your labs move, and how your kidneys decline over time. Now here is where most people make a huge mistake. They hear all of this and think the answer must be stronger medication, or more sodium bicarbonate, or just do whatever the prescription says and hope for the best. But what if the better question is not, what can I swallow? What if the better question is, what is creating the acid burden in the first place? Because once you ask that question, the whole conversation changes. You stop looking only at the powder in the spoon, and you start looking at the chemistry of your daily food. This is where one of the most overlooked ideas in kidney health enters the picture. A concept almost nobody explains in simple English. A concept that may completely change how you think about acid, food, and kidney stress. It is called PRAL, potential renal acid load. And once you understand what that means, you begin to see why some foods quietly increase the acid burden your kidneys have to deal with, while other foods may help ease it. And this is also where the story takes an unexpected turn, because the better answer for many people may not start in the pharmacy. It may start on the plate. And in the next part, I'm going to show you exactly what PRAL means, why certain foods create more acid stress than others, and why a 2013 study found that the right fruit and vegetable strategy improved metabolic acidosis in stage 4 CKD in a way that matched sodium bicarbonate without adding the same sodium burden. So let's pick up right there, because once you stop asking, what powder should I take, and start asking, what is creating the acid burden in my body, everything begins to change. This is where a strange little concept enters the picture, a concept that sounds technical at first, but once you understand it, you start seeing your food in a completely different way. It is called PRAL, potential renal acid load, and in simple words, PRAL is about this. After your body processes a food, does that food leave behind more acid burden for your kidneys to deal with? Or does it help lighten that burden? That is the real question, because not all foods leave the same chemical footprint behind. Some foods quietly push the body toward a more acid-producing state. Others move it in the opposite direction. And if your kidneys are already weak, tired, inflamed, or under pressure, that difference matters more than most people realize. Higher dietary acid load has been linked in the medical literature with worse kidney outcomes, bone loss, and muscle loss, while fruits and vegetables generally have a more alkalinizing effect than animal-heavy, high-protein diets. Now here is the part many people never hear explained clearly. A lot of the modern diet creates work for the kidneys, not just calories, not just sugar, not just sodium. Acid work. Foods with a higher PRAL are often things like large amounts of animal protein, processed grains, and certain cheese-heavy or dairy-heavy patterns. On the other side, many fruits and vegetables tend to create a lower dietary acid load and can help support a more alkaline balance after metabolism. That does not mean animal protein is evil, and it does not mean every fruit or every vegetable is automatically safe for every kidney patient. That would be too simple, and kidney disease is never that simple. Potassium still matters. Your stage still matters. Your blood work still matters. Your medications still matter. But the principle is powerful. Some foods quietly make the acid problem heavier. Some help make it lighter. The National Kidney Foundation warns that people with CKD may need to monitor potassium carefully, even though fruits and vegetables can still play an important role in diet quality when chosen wisely. Now let me tell you why this gets even more interesting, because certain plant foods contain compounds like citrate and malate, and when the body processes those compounds, they can have an alkalinizing effect. In plain English, some plant foods help create bicarbonate equivalents after metabolism. That means the right foods can help reduce part of the acid load your kidneys are fighting every day. That is why this matters so much. This is not just nutrition. This is chemistry. This is strategy. This is the difference between feeding the problem and quietly helping your body defend itself against it. Reviews of dietary acid load in CKD note that fruits and vegetables contain organic anions such as citrate and malate that can contribute to an alkalinizing effect after metabolism. And now we come to something that should make every kidney patient sit up and pay attention. Because this idea was actually tested, not as a blog post, not as an internet theory. Tested. In a 2013 study of people with stage 4 CKD, researchers compared two approaches. One group received sodium bicarbonate, and the other used a carefully designed fruit and vegetable approach. After 1 year, both groups improved their metabolic acidosis, and the fruit and vegetable group did it without the sodium burden of bicarbonate therapy. In that study, the fruit and vegetable strategy also lowered systolic blood pressure compared with sodium bicarbonate. Think about how important that is. For years, many people were taught to believe there was one standard path, one main answer, one classic fix. And yet this study showed that in the right patients and under supervision, the answer did not have to be more sodium. It could be a smarter, acid-reducing diet. That is not a small detail. That is a different way of thinking, a different way of fighting, a different way of protecting the kidneys without automatically reaching first for the sodium-based option. Now at this point, some people get excited and make a dangerous mistake. They hear fruits and vegetables, and they run off and start eating anything they want. That is not what I'm telling you to do. Because kidney patients do not need random enthusiasm, they need smart choices, targeted choices, choices that fit their potassium, stage, labs, and overall plan. For many CKD patients who need lower potassium options, common kidney-friendly lists include foods like cauliflower, cabbage, and peppers, while blueberries are also commonly included among lower potassium fruit options in kidney diet guidance. So now imagine what this means in real life. Instead of seeing food as just, can I eat this or not, you begin asking better questions. Does this meal create more acid work for my kidneys? Does this meal increase the burden? Or does it gently move me in a safer direction? That is the kind of question that changes behavior. That is the kind of question that stops you from eating on autopilot. That is the kind of question that turns a patient into someone who finally understands what their body has been trying to say. And now, we need to talk about the number most people ignore, the number sitting there on the lab sheet, while almost everyone stares only at creatinine and GFR. That number is serum bicarbonate. Sometimes patients notice it through the total CO2 line on a chemistry panel because routine chemistry often reports total carbon dioxide as a practical reflection of bicarbonate status. And this number matters. A lot. Because according to the National Kidney Foundation, the normal serum bicarbonate range is 22 to 29 milliequivalents per litre, and kidney experts recommend that people with CKD not fall below 22. Reviews of CKD metabolic acidosis also note that oral bicarbonate is commonly considered when serum total CO2 drops below 22 millimoles per litre, with some literature suggesting an ideal level around 24 to 26 millimoles per litre. So let me say this very clearly. If your bicarbonate is 21 or 20 or 19, that is not just a number. That is your body telling you something. That is your chemistry moving in the wrong direction. That is your internal balance slipping. And when that happens for long enough, the body starts paying for it with muscle, bone, and metabolic stress. Metabolic acidosis in CKD is associated with muscle loss, bone effects, and worse outcomes, which is why bicarbonate levels are treated as clinically important rather than incidental. Now, some people also use urine pH strips at home. Let me be very careful here. These strips are not the main test. They are not a diagnosis, and they do not replace blood work. But some patients use them as a rough trend tool, just to get a general feel for whether they are running very acidic day after day. Urine pH normally varies through the day and is influenced by food, medications, hydration, and many other factors, so it should be viewed only as a rough trend and not as proof of metabolic acidosis. That is why the smarter move is not to obsess over one strip. The smarter move is to connect the dots: symptoms, diet, GFR, potassium, blood pressure, and most importantly, serum bicarbonate on your actual lab work. The National Kidney Foundation specifically identifies serum bicarbonate as a kidney failure risk factor and explains that CKD can lead to metabolic acidosis when the kidneys cannot remove enough acid. Now we come back to the thing that started this entire conversation: sodium bicarbonate, the standard fix, the familiar fix, or the prescription many people are handed without fully understanding the trade-off. And to be fair, it exists for a reason. It can help raise bicarbonate, it can buffer acid, it can be clinically useful. But there is a reason some patients feel uneasy when they take it. And there is a reason some patients say, why do I feel more bloated, more swollen, or more uncomfortable? Because the downside is hidden right there in the name. Sodium bicarbonate. The National Kidney Foundation notes that sodium bicarbonate is used to raise serum bicarbonate, but it can cause side effects such as bloating and burping. In patients who are sodium sensitive or already battling swelling and high blood pressure, additional sodium load can be a real concern. And this is where the prescription trap begins. You take it because you want to help your kidneys. But if sodium is already part of what your body struggles with, if your ankles swell easily, if your blood pressure climbs quickly, if you already feel that tight, heavy, puffy sensation in your body, then the treatment itself can become physically unpleasant, even if it improves the lab number on paper. NKF materials specifically note the need for more evidence in sodium-sensitive conditions, such as advanced CKD and heart failure, because sodium-based alkali is not a perfect fit for every patient. And when a treatment makes people feel uncomfortable, something predictable happens. They start missing doses. They cut back on their own. They stop taking it consistently. Not because they are careless, but because the body feels the trade-off. Because the body knows when something feels wrong, even before the patient can explain it in technical words. The kidney literature describes sodium bicarbonate as effective for correcting acidosis, but tolerability and sodium burden remain practical concerns that influence long-term use. So now, the question becomes even more important. If sodium bicarbonate is not the perfect answer for everyone, what else should a kidney patient understand? What other lever can be pulled? What other weakness can be corrected? What other missing factor may be quietly shaping blood pressure, bone health, nerve function, muscle function, and acid handling in the background? That is where the conversation turns to magnesium. And this next section is important, because magnesium is one of the most misunderstood topics in kidney health. Some people oversell it like a miracle. Others ignore it completely. The truth sits somewhere in the middle, and in the next part, I'm going to show you what magnesium really does, why low or poorly balanced magnesium may matter more than people think, why some studies link higher magnesium status with slower CKD progression, and why this topic becomes dangerous if your GFR is too low and you supplement blindly. Higher magnesium status has been associated in observational research with better kidney outcomes, but advanced CKD also raises the risk of hypermagnesemia because magnesium excretion falls as GFR declines, especially below roughly 20 to 30 milliliters per minute. Now let's talk about something many kidney patients never think about. Magnesium. Not as a miracle, not as a magic fix, but as an important mineral your body depends on every single day. Magnesium helps your muscles work. It helps your nerves stay steady. It helps support heart rhythm, blood pressure, and bone health. And that matters even more when your kidneys are already under stress. Here is where it gets interesting. Some research has found that lower magnesium levels are linked with worse outcomes in chronic kidney disease. In other words, magnesium may be one of those hidden pieces people rarely check, even though it could be part of the bigger picture. That does not mean magnesium is a cure, and it does not mean every kidney patient should start taking it. But it does mean this is a question worth asking, because sometimes the real danger in kidney disease is not just what you know, it is what nobody bothered to explain. A person can focus on creatinine, focus on GFR, focus on blood pressure, and still miss a smaller imbalance that may be quietly adding to weakness, and instability, and stress inside the body. But now comes the warning. This is where people make mistakes. They hear that magnesium may be helpful, and they assume more is better. That is not how kidney disease works. When kidney function becomes more advanced, the body can have a harder time getting rid of extra magnesium. That means magnesium supplements can become risky in later stage CKD, especially when used casually or in high amounts. Severe hypermagnesemia can cause muscle weakness, nausea, and dangerous heart conduction problems, so please hear this clearly. Do not take magnesium blindly just because someone online said it helps kidneys. That is not smart care, that is gambling. The better move is simple. Test first, know your GFR, know your serum magnesium, know your serum bicarbonate. Then talk to your doctor using real numbers, not guesses. That is how kidney patients protect themselves, not with hype, not with fear, with data. And that brings us back to the real message of this video. This video is not really about hating baking soda. It is about understanding the real problem. The real problem is acid stress inside the body, and the goal is to lower that acid burden in the safest, smartest way possible. For some people, sodium bicarbonate may still have a role. Kidney experts treat low serum bicarbonate in CKD seriously because it is associated with worse outcomes, and treatment often aims to keep bicarbonate in the normal range. But for others, the bigger breakthrough may come from asking better questions. Can diet reduce the acid load? Am I making the problem worse with what I eat every day? Is sodium making me feel more swollen or uncomfortable? Is my bicarbonate already low? And is magnesium something I should check, not blindly take? Those are better questions. Questions that give you more control. Questions that can change the way you manage kidney disease before more damage happens quietly in the background. So at your next blood test, ask about these two numbers: serum bicarbonate, serum magnesium. And if your bicarbonate is low, do not just ask, "What should I take?" Ask this instead: why is acid building up in my body? Because once you ask that question, everything changes. You stop guessing, you stop blindly following, and you start making decisions that actually fit your body. That is where smarter kidney care begins. And before you leave, comment your age, your GFR, and where you are watching from. Because when people with kidney disease speak up, others learn faster, others feel less alone. And sometimes one comment becomes the warning another person needed before things got worse.